Hey, welcome to this week's Performance TV. You know, everybody from time to time, or at least you should, be changing out your coolant. Sometimes you just need to drain it to change a part or whatever. And if you're in a big shop, well, you might have a really cool machine like this. But if you're like me and just doing it at home in your shop, well, you gotta have wet hands and let gravity do its job. But you know what? Wouldn't it be really cool as if you're going to change that coolant and you could go to a waterless product? Well, Evans has just such a product line, and with that, Dave has more.
Okay, we've got all of our coolant out of there. Our petcock was pretty corroded from the water that we have in our system. I just simply use a little bit of blaster on there, let it sit for a bit, and it let us get that out of there. Today I've got Mike from Evans Cooling, and he's going to explain why we want to use his coolant.
Yeah, Evans is a waterless coolant, and that makes it different from virtually every other coolant that there is because they all contain typically 50% water. And why that's important is because although water has been used for a long time and it transfers heat very well, it has its challenges. One of those things is water creates corrosion. It also promotes electrolysis. And most important, water has a lower boiling point as compared to Evans with a high boiling point of 375 degrees. That means it won't form vapor, it won't build pressure, it remains a liquid even at higher temperatures.
I like that. So what's our process? We can just drop this down and then pour some in?
Well, actually, we have to do a very thorough and deliberate job of getting the old coolant out, because remember that old coolant contains water. So we want to keep this a waterless system, so it's important to drain all the coolant out. To do that, we're going to need a few tools. First of all, we're going to need the coolant, the high-performance waterless coolant, the waterless flush, the prep fluid. Okay. And to force that remaining coolant out, we're going to use a blower. And then once we're through, we're going to test the water content with test strips and a refractometer. I see. But it's important to make sure you take the time to do it right, because in the end, you want to make sure it's below 3% water.
So that water, that corrosive and that bad that even 3% we got to get out.
Well, yeah, exactly. You know, especially if it sits there. Now, water-based coolant has additives to protect against corrosion, but over time those additives fall out. Where Evans remains, those additives remain in solution indefinitely. So Evans will protect your engine permanently and doesn't have to be changed out.
So can I put this in any car?
Yeah, actually you can put it in any kind of vehicle that's liquid cooled. And it's important because you can put it in a classic car, a muscle car, a hot rod, race cars. I think where performance, protection, preservation really matter, this is where Evans comes in.
Well, let's go ahead and pour some in.
Sure. Well, actually, what we have to do first is make sure we put the prep fluid in to flush the system thoroughly, to make sure we remove all the old water and clean out any debris, any additives that are in there. It'll do a good job of scrubbing out that old coolant in preparation for the high-performance coolant.
Oh, I see. Okay. We don't want to bore you with 15 minutes of watching a car run, so we'll be back with Mike and his waterless coolant a little bit later in the show. Right now, we're going to take a break. We'll be back with more Performance TV in just a bit. Welcome back to Performance TV. We're back with Mike from Evans Waterless Coolant. What do we got going so far on our 70 Chevelle here?
Well, we've drained all the water-based coolant out, and then we've used forced air to blow any residual coolant out of the system, because there's always some of that left behind in the nooks and crannies. Right. Then we filled the system with prep fluid. Okay. Ran that through the engine for about 15 minutes to make sure it circulates throughout the whole cooling system, through the heater core, so we had the heat on high for about 10 or 15 minutes to make sure that's well circulated and absorbed all the old water-based coolant. Gotcha. Okay. Then we've drained that out and again used air to force the residual prep fluid out through the system. Okay, and that's what we've got right here then. Yeah, in fact, you can see how important it is to use the prep fluid, because this is what it looked like going in and this is what it looked like coming out. So you can see it picked up a lot of that old coolant and flushed out the dirt and any residual stuff left behind. So we've got all of our waterless coolant in there. We let our engine cool down. Now what do we do? Well, now that we've completed the installation, it's time to test for water content. There's a couple of ways you can do that. First, you can use a refractometer, and it's simple to use. You just take a small sample of coolant, and you put it on the glass plate. You look through the viewer and make sure that the corresponding scale fits the appropriate water percentage that you have. That's one way of doing it. Or you can use a test strip, and it's inexpensive and it's easy to do at home, and you can match up the corresponding color, and you can see from here that we're well below 3%. Once we're through testing water content, then we can put the do not add water decal on the radiator to prevent anybody from mistakenly adding water to the system. It's waterless, we want to keep it that way.
Right, when I'm getting my oil changed and things like that, I want to make sure they know and don't put in water that we just took all that time to get out.
Right. Yeah.
So we got all the corrosive properties of the water out, and now our engine's going to last forever.
It'll be protected, it'll be preserved forever, permanently. You don't have to change out the coolant. You prevent electrolysis, you won't have corrosion, and your boiling point is so high now that you won't come close to it, you won't form vapor, and you won't build pressure. So you're protected for the life of the engine with Evans.
Excellent. Well, that's all we've got this week. We'll see you next week here on Performance TV.